So I got my actor visa and moved to New York City to pursue acting full-time. In this video, I'll show you how to get a 3-year O-1 actor visa so you can legally work as an actor in the US. What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for turning up and tuning into my YouTube channel where I discuss everything to do with the business side of acting. My name is Islam Balba, and I'm here to take you on my personal journey of moving from Egypt, Canada, to New York to pursue acting. I have personally gotten huge Hollywood opportunities that would have changed my life forever, but got flat out rejected simply because I didn't have that O-1 visa. You cannot work in the US legally without a visa. It is a very complex process, but let me make it easy for you and show you how to get it. The first thing you need to do is getting a US sponsor. There are two types of sponsors: an employer sponsor, where a company or a studio hires you for a role, or an agent sponsor, where an agent sponsors you for multiple roles. I personally went with an agent sponsor because an employer sponsor limits you to just work for them and no one else. And don't let the word agent scare you. You don't need a literal agent. What you need is a US citizen or a resident who can vouch for you. Have a talk with your sponsor and let them know that this is going to be a journey between the two. You need to be fully transparent with your sponsor and make it as easy a process as possible by letting them know the following. First, the O-1 visa application will be under their name as they're petitioning for you. Tell them you'll fill in the I-129 form, which you can find in the description below, and ask them for their basic contact information so you can fill it in for them. Now, my first mistake is asking my sponsor for their social security number. Americans are not very fond of that. I should have respected their privacy. I got a few people who said they'd get back to me and waited until they said they're not comfortable providing me that number, and that wasted a lot of months of back and forth. What you can tell your sponsor is once you fill in the application and send it to them, then they can add their social security number and then mail it to the Vermont center if they're on the East Coast or the California center if they're on the West Coast. The next thing you need to let them know is this does not affect them in any way. They don't need to worry or do anything else. If by a slim chance you screwed up and got deported, still does not affect them in any way. Finally, let them know to keep an eye on their mail as they'll be getting your approval or rejection letter or request for evidence. All right, now that you got your sponsor and filled in your application, the next step is to find at least 2 future employers. Now, here was my second mistake. I spent more than a year trying to audition for US roles, but it was a catch-22 situation where I can't work without an O-1 visa and I can't get an O-1 visa without future employers. Also, on a small chance that the employer agrees, they'll ask you to work within a month or a few weeks or even a few days. You will not get the visa in that short period of time. So here's what I suggest. Make a solid connection with an established producer or director friend of yours and ask them to write you an employment letter with the following information. First, the work you'll be doing for the next 3 years, whether it's plays, shows, films, and so on. Basically, brainstorm with your director or producer friend and ask them what is their project wish list for the next 3 years. Second, the lead roles you'll be playing for those shows and the role descriptions. Finally, your salary. It could be weekly, hourly, or monthly, but it should be above minimum wage. You might be asking yourself, well, Islam, how can I make these connections if I've never been to the US? The answer is start making these connections. Visit the US for a couple of months. Volunteer in different theaters or short films. Get to know these people. Another strategy is to apply for virtual or remote shows. Those are the 2 things that I've done personally. Now that you got at least 2 future employer letters, the third step is to get a letter from a US acting union that you're a member of, mentioning that you're in good standing. Check out next week's video where I'll be discussing what these unions are and how to join them. The fourth, final, and most important step is the eligibility criteria. You need to satisfy 3 out of the 6 in order to get approved. 2 of those are extremely difficult to obtain, so I'll just skim through them. One is that you worked on a project and got paid more than $35,000, and the other is that you won an Oscar or an Emmy. Let's move on to the other 4 criteria that you can easily obtain. The first one is you need to find 4 or more media interviews or articles that mention you by name as an actor. If you don't have those, I highly recommend making connections with media outlets to have them interview or write articles about you. The second and third criteria can be combined, which is basically your portfolio. You need to show that you've worked in a lead or critical role and build your resume based on your top 6 to 8 projects. Get as much proof as you can for these projects: IMDb pages, posters, billboards, rehearsal schedules, call sheets, and so on. The fourth criteria are 8 recommendation letters from established actors you have worked with. In those letters, they need to mention how they worked with you and glamorize the work you've done in your portfolio or your media articles. Here is your moment to shine. That's it, that's all. Whew. Took me 3 years to gather all that paperwork and apply. But I'm hoping with this video that you can cut your time in 1 year or less. gather all your paperwork, send it to your sponsor with your application, and you're good to go. Also, word of advice, don't be a perfectionist. They personally did not contact a single person from my side. You should get a response within a few months after you send in your application. Now, the only benefit that Canadian citizens get than any other citizens is that they don't need to go through an interview process. I hope this video is useful. Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so I can be able to provide you a lot more content on getting you on the big screen and stage. Thank you for listening, and break a leg out there.